Hello Multiverse, welcome to Omniverse Gamers. My name's Damien Bazzaio. This video is going to dissect another dynamic encounter. We're going to call this one Goblin Donkey Kong. This encounter is from Deep World of Skanders episode 8, I believe it is. The party is continuing their assault into the Goblin Hill. This is the second stage in this assault into the hill, and I kind of designed this like a big massive kill zone based off kind of like Donkey Kong off the old board game Fireball Island, where there was like a little boulder that would come and knock your pieces off the board and knock you back to the end. The idea for this concept came from that game and from Donkey Kong, obviously. And this is an example of another very three-dimensional combat that takes place on a 2D plane that I'm going to draw with crayon right in front of the players. Well, I actually drew this one ahead of time just because we were filming and I wanted to make sure the spiral looked good without. It probably took me like 10 minutes to draw this out, but I wanted to make it. I didn't want to waste those 10 minutes in game, so let me show you a picture of the final result. It's just a spiral. It looks like nothing right here without my descriptions. It looks just like a spiral. But I'll show you on the big map here. You saw the first one from into Goblin Hill. This is the little kind of like the defensive structures that they had to fight through. Now this is the next. This is kind of two encounters after. There was kind of like a role playing encounter in between there, with like a puzzle encounter, and then there was this. Then there's this encounter where it's this big kill zone, and I'm literally, as the party's trying to climb up this like an old mine shaft that's going down in a spiral. As they're climbing up it, I'm literally going to throw boulders down at them, rolling down the hill, and it creates crazy drama. It's very slow. It's in watching it in the world. It's happening very slow. And obviously, the way D&D combat works, this isn't like a rolling boulders action scene, but the way your role playing works, like there's never a time where like the balls are actually rolling at them and they're like like Indiana Jones running away. It's not that tense, but also the whole hour or 2 hours that this combat took, that whole time the tension of those boulders rolling, even though they weren't actually moving physically in their minds, those boulders were coming at them. And this whole sequence came out really well. Let me show you how I set this up. So the party's trying to come in here and find the Goblin King and take his head. That's their goal. They're doing it for various reasons. So they've already gone through a bunch of goblins, as you saw in the previous encounter. Now they're coming to the next stage. And the goblins, I have this whole hill is set up defensively. There's like literally like traps. Goblins like traps. But I didn't want to make it convoluted because it is convoluted. There's a bunch of traps in a row. But this whole goblin complex is designed to protect something in the center that they haven't found yet. The future episode, you'll see what that is. But so all these convoluted traps they're climbing up this hill, and all these traps are coming down at them, and boulders and stuff set up. These are all defensive structures set up for this specific purpose. So it's not as convoluted as it could be, basically. So not that you need. I mean, you have a puzzle encounter. It is what it is. But this is just the exposition of the world gives us a reason eventually. So I'm using for this. I'm using, like I said, a map that I drew. I'm going to use action-oriented goblins from Matt Colville, just like the previous video and my Goblin Bridge video, and same monsters. So it's the same monsters in a different map, and the encounter is going to have a totally different feel than the infiltration video where they were attacking with waves and they were coming in slowly exploring things. In this one, the party's going to enter into this wide open kill zone where they can see 40, 60 feet up, and the spiral kind of goes up and around. And then way up above 80 feet is another group of people who are shooting down at them. So there's all a bunch of unaccessible people. As they come in, the goblins are surrounding them in a couple squads with their lieutenants, and they are just in a kill zone, and they have to climb up this. They realize as soon as they come in that they have to climb up this to get to them. They're like, oh crap, there's a lot of martial characters. They don't have a lot of ranged attacks, so they're going to slowly start climbing or running the circle or whatever. So let me switch over to the map here, and you'll see them. So they pop out. Here they are in the world. They're coming out of the previous map into this map, and this is where they start into this encounter. So our barbarian and they start to climb. They jump up their various ways. Our wizards shoot some fireballs and stuff at various things, and they get a little bit of an opening salvo as their first round. They come running out. Goblins all shoot down. I take it. I wait for just the right moment for these last two goblins over here on the upper right. They disappear, and they come back rolling giant boulders, and then. The players are like, what are you fucking? They know this. They can see this bowl, and they really quickly they piece out. Oh my god, these boulders are gonna roll right down this thing again at slaughter us all because they're pretty big boulders. But instead of just rolling them on top of the players, I have three different. You can see I have way up, and I have a middle, and I have a kind of lower area. And the goblins are trying to hit a certain level, but I'm gonna roll a d6, and I'm gonna make it random where they actually, because obviously they're not rolling a giant boulder down a hill is not a precise thing. So I'm gonna make it fun and dramatic, and so it's fun for me and fun for them. So I'm rolling a d6. If I roll a 1 or a 2, the boulder's gonna land at the top level. If I roll a 3 or a 4, the boulder's gonna land in the middle level. And if I roll a 5 or a 6, it's gonna roll at the bottom level. And depending how far it rolls, it's going to have the extra movement. It's going to roll along the wall. So if I roll a 1 and a 3, it's going to hit, and it's going to roll a little farther. If I roll a 3 or 4, it's going to drop to the second level and roll a little bit. If I roll a 5 or 6, it's going to drop all the way down to the third level where the players are, but it's not going to quite move yet until I roll a turn for it. But so either way I roll, so my first two rolls are 3s and a 4. I have 3 and a 4. So both my boulders drop in the middle zone and they start to roll a little bit, which is kind of great because it's not because if I roll a 1 or 2, it's really bad for the goblins because they're in line, you know. And then if I roll the 3 or 4s in the middle, if I roll 5 or 6, like our barbarian's going to take it right on the first. Then his next turn, he's going to take this boulder, so he has no time to react to it basically, which would have been fun. And that's that's the randomness of the game. But like the fact that it landed in the middle, it kind of added to the drama and to the expanded this. I don't know. It just made it cool how nobody really. It was like a neutral thing where it landed, and it was completely random. So it could have gone either way. And as you'll see in future rolls, I don't do so well for myself or for them in it. So yeah, they start fighting. They get the sense that these boulders are coming down. Now they're all of a sudden they're just like, oh my god, this encounter, even though it's flat on the table here, with a spiral, I describe it as going up 20. Every little thing from each one is 20 feet up. So you can climb 20 feet up to the next part of the spiral, or you can walk around the thing with your regular movement speed. And the boulders are going to slowly roll down the big toilet bowl kind of thing, And it's funny because our wizard keeps popping out and shooting and popping back in, thinking she's safe in the other room. But the other room is actually the ball's going to roll in there and just kind of spin around like a churning factory. But she doesn't know that yet, and she doesn't. We don't quite actually. They end up. She thinks she's safe down in there, but she's not. Anyway, so they start. Goblins are shooting down, just raining arrows, and the action-oriented lieutenants can actually add to their attacks, let them attack more or move or whatever, and like. The lieutenants can also grab other guys and put them in front of them if they get attacked. So and the players know this from the previous encounter. They kind of know. They already know the dynamics of these goblins. We learned that in the first encounter. So now I'm upping the stakes because they have those parameters, and now they're having three-dimensional combat where they do not have the advantage. They are literally in a kill zone, and there's giant boulders rolling down at them. So our Grung monk can jump really well. So he jumps up and gets right up into the east side there, and just starts wrecking things. He actually brings the animal companion, the little snake of the ranger, with him. So the two of them are up there fighting on that side. While the goblins from the west are just pummeling out the whole party, and the goblins way up at the top are shooting down their arrows and their javelins and stuff. And so the party they do their best attacks they can at range, and then they kind of the wizard comes out, pops some more, she goes back in. So then eventually it's my turn again. I roll for the boulders. So what I'm doing for the boulders is they're going to roll 20 feet each turn, and then I'm going to roll a d20, and I'm going to add that many feet to how far the boulder rolls. And depending on which boulder rolls first, if it hits the other boulder, it'll push that one. So these boulders roll. I don't remember what I rolled, but they roll a little bit. You can see over here, the barbarian is smart enough to get over. He waits till they go past, and he jumps up onto the top, and they roll by him. But now the poor mole man, the ranger at the bottom, he's the only one now that's below these two boulders. Everybody else, and the wizard is in the other room who thinks she's safe, but she's not quite. But everybody else is now above the boulders, these two boulders. So obviously. Now over here, our Grung cast darkness, or Shadow Monk cast darkness to really confuse these guys, and they're on a ledge, so they can't really go forward. So they start running away from the darkness out to where they can see, because they don't want to run at the Grung because he's in the dark. He has blind sense. He's just wrecking them as they're running away from the special darkness. So that's what this tinfoil represents, the darkness sphere. So they run out of there. They start engaging, and I roll again. I come out and I roll another boulder. There you go. I rolls in the middle, right next to the barbarian. He's like, oh crap! And so I roll at him. Now because it only rolled a 3 and a 4, it didn't roll as far as the top one did. So he knows his next turn, his boulder's right in his face, coming right at him, and he's got to deal with it. They kind of move on. They do some more fighting. The barbarian climbs up to the next level. Fights ensue. The leader comes over. He can't see in the darkness, so they come over and start fighting the barbarian. As these guys up in the top here are getting now, they split up, and some of them go towards the barbarian, and some of them still fight the ranger. As the boulders are rolling and the wizard's popping out and shooting, and then the leader ends up, after these boulders go, this leader up here, he jumps down, fails completely, lands prone on this ledge, but then he has more movement, so I roll off the ledge and land next to the ranger. So yeah, I took damage, but now I'm down there engaging the ranger, and also I'm delaying the ranger from moving because the boulders are coming around, so he's got to deal with this guy before the boulders get there, or he's going to take some damage, So battle continues, I move the little two guys back again. They come back, of course, with another boulder, and I roll a 1. So they're gonna come in, try to shoot the boulder at the enemies, but they actually landed right behind the boss, and the boss is just like, what the hell are you guys doing, you stupid idiots?" And he's like screaming at them as the boulder flattens him, and they goes through him, and the next guy, and the barbarian's fighting another goblin as the boulder's coming at them now. So he's engaged with the boulder coming at him. The mole man's engaged while the boulders are kind of swinging right above him, ready to come around the pass. So even though this took over an hour and a half of combat, this was tense the whole time. Simply adding these tinfoil boulders they're not even moving, but in their minds they're moving. It added a lot of tension to this encounter and made it really really cool. So they keep rolling and they finally end up destroying the people, and they actually got so many. They killed so many of them that the one guy that we started running low on time, so I was just like, oh, I'll give up and I'll give you my key to get to the king, and like they give up basically. But as you can see, this combat came really crazy. It was a simple concept, 3D in our minds, crayon, but the boulders and just the threat of the boulders is enough to the depth of this encounter was enough to make this really really cool. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. I hope you see how that worked. You can make a 2-dimensional combat 3-dimensional with just the way you describe it and just the way you, like I draw that 2-dimensional map, but you just kind of make it relevant to 3-dimensional space in the best way you can. And 5th edition kind of helps that because 5th edition doesn't really care about trigonometry. If something's 50 feet up and 20 feet away, it's 50 feet away. It's not, you don't have to do the hypotenuse and do the trigonometry. I mean, I've done it in 3rd edition, but I don't. 5th edition says you don't need to. I'm not going to do math I don't need to do. The whole point was to get the feel of 3 dimensions without having to do all the math and all the drawing and building a big set. You can build this all in cardboard and make this really cool set, and it would be really cool. But then again, I can just whip this out and draw it, and we can have this epic 3-dimensional combat just like this. And that's just another example of a dynamic encounter. I hope that gives you guys some inspiration. Definitely those action-oriented goblins. I have a couple more encounters with them. They are really fun to use. Action-oriented anything, but the goblins are the ones that he invented first. So I kind of like try to show people how in practical ways to use them. And then it's just like clear. This whole battle is all about the terrain. It's the fact that the goblins have the advantage. They're the parties attacking them. They have to come up this hill, up this kill zone. Not only are they in an arrow kill zone, but they're in a like a blender kill zone with the boulders. And it was just a really cool fun encounter that I was one of my favorite encounters that I ran in a long time, just because the way I designed it, I thought it would be cool, and everything I thought, it just came out exactly the way I thought it would. You know what I mean? In its own little way. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. We are Omniverse Gamers. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. I hope to see you soon, and keep on gaming.